Thank you for joining. My name is Denise Williams, and this is the Procurement Awareness Movement. Go ahead and type in any questions you have in the Q&A section. As we go along, I'll take questions at the very end. So thank you so much for joining tonight. If you haven't connected with me, visit procurementqueen.com. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook at Procurement Queen. A disclaimer before we get started, this webinar is for informational purposes only and must not be considered legal, tax, financial, or other advice on which you may rely on. Some positive affirmations. So wherever you are, I want you to repeat out loud with me. I am winning contracts. I am persistent. I am helpful. I enjoy learning. I am manifesting my goals. I am a good decision maker. And I am successful. Okay. So I want you're definitely going to learn something tonight. And so whatever it is that you learn, I want you to share with other people. So they could also be aware of all these different opportunities. Okay. So a little bit about myself. I have a lot of certifications in procurement. I did not always start that way. You know, I got the job and then I decided to pursue it even more to find out more about it, which then allowed me to better help you and bring you this information. I have 2 kids, Sterling and Phoenix. Sterling is 10, my son is 8. And this is some drawings they sent to school and said, my mom always says no. So now the teachers know what mommy says. In procurement, I want you to always do the right thing, even when no one is looking. And so ethics is really important. You should not be paying anyone for contracts. No one can guarantee that you get a contract. So don't give them any cash. Don't give them any personal checks wrote out to them directly. Your contract will be in the form of a purchase order from the governmental agency itself. Okay. So you want to make sure you always do the right thing. So what is procurement, right? So procurement is the acquisition of a good or service. So in this example on the screen, we see Perel, where like in COVID, right? So that hand sanitizer was scarce in the beginning. So since we could touch that hand sanitizer, we could feel it, right? It's considered a good because it's tangible. You also see Lysol, right? We hold it up, we feel it. You know, it's probably like $8 now in the stores or so, but that is also considered a good. And that is both of these objects. These goods are government contracts, right? So there are companies out there that sell hand sanitizer and Lysol to various governmental agencies. So at the bottom of the screen, you see cleaning service, janitorial cleaning service. It could be landscaping cleaning service. It could be laundry cleaning service. That's also procurement, and that typically falls under what's called an RFP. And then your goods will typically fall under a bid. It could change depending on if there's a combination, because there's some solicitations or like an RFP, request for proposal, that could include goods as well as services. If you have any questions as I go along, definitely go ahead and drop it in the chat and the Q&A, and I'll take your questions at the end. Okay. So some terminology I want you to know. I mean, there's a lot of terminology when it comes to procurement, but some main ones I want you to know right here on the screen. So a requisition defines the need for a particular item. So for example, if you went out to a governmental agency and they're like, yes, we really like your mental health idea that you have, your courses, we really want to do it. We want you to come and work with us. What I want you to do is I want you to follow up with them at a later time, whether you chose 7 days, 1 week, or 2 weeks, it's up to you. And you want to ask them, hey, did you put in a requisition for the service, right? And the reason why you're asking them that, because that's when they have to actually go into your system and say, hey, we want mental health services. This is the vendor, this is the amount, and so forth. So you want to make sure you follow up and find out if they put in a requisition. Now, if they said, yes, we put in a requisition, then I want you to follow up again. You're going to follow up maybe about 2 weeks or so, because eventually that requisition turns into what is called your purchase order, or the PO, right? Your purchase order is your actual contract to go out and provide these goods and services. So in this example, I have catering services, a requisition, because catering service is a government contract. Someone needs to feed the people when they're at meetings and team building assignments and so forth. The catering service is needed. So Bunny Catering Service is an African-American female-owned business right here in New Jersey. They do catering. And so she received her purchase order. The purchase order tells her, hey, Bunny, we need you now to go deliver that menu, the food that the agency selected. Okay. Now Bunny's like, okay, I got the purchase order. I delivered the food. They said my food was delicious. And now I want to make sure I get paid. So in order to get the payment, right, which is your cash from the government, is accounts payable. The accounts payable department is a department that's responsible for paying you. So you want to be really friendly to them. You don't want to be nasty and rude because you may just get your payment delayed even longer than net 30. Typically in governmental agencies, the payment terms is net 30. That means 30 days from the time that Bunny delivered that food to that whatever agency requested it, she should get paid. Now, there are checks and balances in place to ensure that she gets paid. One of them is the purchase order. The second one, Bunny has to send an invoice over to accounts payable. Her invoice should always have the purchase order number on there. But I'm going to give you a little tip, right? And you need to write that down because it's really important that you do this in order for you to get paid within net 30, okay? That department that purchased Bunny's food, that received it, they enjoyed it, they love it, they now have to go back into their system and put in what is called a receipt. Without a receipt, Bunny could call accounts payable every day till Sunday, Monday, till she blew in the face, and she would not receive a check, right? Because if accounts payable was simply gave out, hypothetically, if accounts payable would have just get an invoice and just submit checks, send out checks. You just send an invoice and AP just sends out checks. Government agencies will be bankrupt if it worked that way, right? Because there's no way to tell whether or not they delivered it or not, all right? So you want to make sure you follow up and ask for receipt. The governmental agencies also would use what's called P cards. Some agencies have them, usually for goods or services that's needed like right away. So maybe someone got locked out of an office or something and they need a locksmith like right now, right? And just so happen to have access to a P card. Then they could use the P card for the locksmith. Just like your own credit cards that you have, there's a limit, right? Whether it's a credit card or a debit, you have a limit, the P cards have a limit. So some P cards limit maybe like 4,000, 2,000, it depends. And there are also conditions on what P card could be used for. So if that employee is working late at night, you're like, listen, they have me working here till 8 o'clock p.m. I usually have my wine if I'm at home at that time, right? They can't use the P card to go buy wine, right? So there's things like that and several other things that P cards are not used for. But you as the vendor looking at this presentation right now, a P card is really great because that means you're getting paid right away. As soon as they hit swipe, right, you would have received your payment. So keep that in mind. And in that case, there would be no purchase order, right? So the government buys things using the various methods. Just like if you open up your wallet now, you probably have some debit cards, maybe some credit cards, some checks, cash, coins, right? All of that is things that you could use to go out and buy a good or service, whether you want to buy a bottle of water, you want to hire, go get your hair done, that's a service, right? You use those things that are in your wallet. For the governmental agency now, when they want to buy things, they put out bids and requests for proposals, requests for qualifications, requests for quotations, and the list goes on and on and on. So that is their method of purchasing those particular goods and services that they would like. And on the screen, I'm just showing you some services that the governmental agencies buy, veterinary services, right? They also buy barbers, like barbers equipment as well, and also look for barbers to actually cut the hair of the people, whether they're in nursing homes or detention centers. That's a contract. So if you know your barber, you want to say, hey, did you know that there are contracts for you, bro? Let them know, right? There are opportunities there. Now you also see a hospital on there because hospitals also have requests for proposals and bids too, especially if it's a government-owned type of facility, right? So you want to keep that in mind as well. There's governmental contracts everywhere, right in your backyard. All right. So over here on the screen, what you're looking at is bids that were awarded. And this is just to give you a sense of the types of contracts that are out there, right? The amount that those contracts went for. It gives you the buyer, which is really important for you to know the buyer, right? So just for example, if you provide flooring, and you see that this bid was awarded March the 2nd, but you know the buyer is Lori, you may want to reach out to Lori and say, hey, Lori, and she'll give her like your capability statement. with the different types of floor stuff that you have. Maybe you have cleaners for that floor, right? Some type of equipment that's even better that they may want to use on the floor. So that is the buyer for that. This is who you would reach out to. And that is one of the reasons why I wrote my book, How to Find a Government Buyer, is so that when you look at this information, don't be like, oh man, this bid is expired. I don't want to bother with this. No, if you look at it, there's some valuable information right here, right? For the buyer, you get to know the amount. So that way, when you give them a quote, you're not going to say, hey, I'm going to do your floor for 10,000 when you know that they just awarded a contract for 49,000, right? So you want to use the data that's there to help you when you respond to these opportunities, okay? So the book, How to Find a Buyer, you would have written down this buyer contact information in here. I mean, these are like hyperlinks, so we'll give you like the buyer's email address as well, so you can reach out to them directly. All right. So a capability statement looks like this. It gives you your core competencies, differentiators. Usually it also includes like your past experience. I mean, there's different variations of it. People have pictures and images and some don't. It's up to you. This is a capability statement for an attorney because attorneys do win government contracts too. And this is Tony Moore's capability statement and what her company does. It's a lot of trademark and help a lot of small businesses. Okay, she's awesome. I'm a client. So I definitely recommend Tony Moore if you're looking to get your company like trademark. This is another capability statement. As you see, there's still capability statement. It has to say it on there, and it tells all the different things that your company does. So this is Monica of the Miller Resource Company, and she does a lot of human resource coaching, interview, coaching resumes with athletes that are transitioning into the workforce. So that's also a government contract, okay? And she's also a certified women-owned company as well. So it's notice how it gives you different things that she does. That is the value of a capability statement. So you may like, well, Denise, I do floors. I also have floor equipment, cleaners. You can put that all in your capability statement. Now, if you said, oh, Denise, I do floors and I do hair and I do real estate, can I put that all in one? And my answer to you would be no. You could have several capability statements catered for that company. So if you do hair, your barber information could be on one capability statement, your flooring information could be in another, and now you're targeting different governmental buyers, right? See, that's why I wrote that book. So you know exactly who to send that capability statement to, right? They're the ones that know when an RFP is going to be published before the public even know. So that's the value of reaching out to these buyers to let them know how great your company is. So the government buys lots and lots of products, goods, and services. So some of you guys, when you registered for today, you said that you have vending machine. I think it was like a healthy vending machine. So I'm not sure if you're on here tonight, but this is just an example of one for New Jersey, but whatever states you're in, that information is also available for you, okay? But keep in mind, even though you're in New Jersey, you could still compete for contracts in Florida, in Texas, in Virginia. You could compete for contracts in all those different states. So you're not just married to your one state. Now, you may have looked at this prior to taking this class and said, oh, vending machine, oh man, I missed this one. That was in 2000, that was in February 25th, 2020. Oh man, I missed it. We're now in April, but I don't want you to do that anymore. When you see that, I want you to look at it and say, what did Procurement Queen say about information that I could use? Oh, the buyer. You see how I highlighted on there? Maybe you have a vending machine that's healthy and something they didn't even consider. You could take your capability statement. You should have one for your vending company as well. What kinds of goods you're going to have in that vending machine. You want to put that in a capability statement. And you want to send it to this contact right here that you see. That is the person who's buying vending machines. So they know if they're going to put out another bid for vending machines, they know if they got this vendor and this vendor is saying, hey, we can't do this on this day and that day. They know that information. You don't, right? So that's why you want to reach out to the buyer and let them know how great your company is. And you may just get another opportunity by doing that. Okay. This is another one if you like pets and so forth, and you want to do training. This is a contract for canine training, right? And over here, they told you that the anticipated budget was $25,000. That means that's how much they want to award a contract for. So don't put in your bid for $80,000 when they told you the budget is $25,000. And so that's how you would use that information. And again, we just see the contact person right here is Lori. So if you have dogs right now, you're like, listen, I trained Rocky how to like walk backwards on one leg. If that is you and you're good at training pets and so forth, you contact Lori, give Lori a capability statement. And when you give a capability statement, governmental agencies are like, oh, they look at you different because now you understand how to, the lingo, right? You look, it's a lot more professional. You stand out when you have one. You're like, well, Denise, I need help putting it together. If you need help, there's a class on Procurement Queen Academy for that with a capability statement where you go through it for the DIY. All right, but you absolutely should create one for your company. This is another one for geese, right? You see, I'm putting all those different types of contract opportunities so you can see like, oh my God, I didn't know there was a contract for that. Well, and so there's a contract for geese, and that contract was also state, well, they're saying the budget should not exceed $25,000 again, okay? So there's lots of opportunity. This one was recent for Tai Chi services, right? You're like, what in the world? Yeah, they probably, if you know karate, learn how to do Tai Chi too. That's also a contract. And this one, they received no response. And so they actually did what is called a rebid. That means they published it over again, hoping that someone else would respond to it. Okay, so if you want to respond to that for the Tai Chi services, if you're in the Facebook group, that information is in that group. That is due sometime in May. So you still have some time to respond. And like screen printing, if you know how to put different items and graphics and words on t-shirts, that's also a contract as well. Okay. Type in any of your questions. So for homework, what I want you to do for day one is I want you to gather some documents like your EIN number, your certificate of formation, because it tells when your company was formed, your business address, phone number, email. And for tomorrow, what you're going to do that information is you're going to find vendor portals and you're going to register in it. So that way you get all these email notifications of when they have canine bids, when they have barber's bids, flooring bids. So you know when these opportunities are available, it comes directly to your inbox. So that is the purpose of why I want you to gather those documents for today. And also for today, I want you to make a list of 15 goods and services that you could potentially sell to the government. Don't worry about how ridiculous you think it sounds to write it down, right? Because as you saw, there are contracting opportunities for everything. There's Tai Chi, there's geese, there's dog. I mean, there's even stuff in the cannabis industry. So whatever it is, it's kind of like a dump, right? I just want you to write it down. If you have any of my books, you have the book that's capability statement book, there's a section in there where you get to list the goods and services that you would like to sell to the government. So if you have that book, you want to go in there and you want to jot that down right in the book. All right. So when I see you tomorrow, we're going to talk about how you're going to use the information that you gathered. So for day one, I want you to list the goods and services that you would like to sell to the government. Don't think about it's crazy. There's nothing, no contract. I don't want you to think about it. I just want you to think of yourself, your skills that you have. Think of also in terms of the other business owners that you know and what they provide. Write that down. Because guess what? If you know who also provide those goods and services, then you could be what's called a prime contractor. That means you respond to that RFP and you know your friend is really good at landscaping, right? And now you subcontract that work out to your friend that's a landscaper. So I also want you to keep that in mind as well, okay? I'm just gonna answer your questions now. So do you say services typically fall under RFP more so than products? Yes. So services tend to be a request for proposal and bids will tend to be like your goods, things that you could touch, hold, and feel. However, there are some services that some RFPs that's a combination of goods and services. So think of it like if let's say you have a book and you want to train people using your book. So your training part would be the service and then the book would be the good. So in some RFPs, they combined it too, okay? Good question. Any other questions? Just check. Going once, going twice. Oh, there we go. What is the usual distinction between when the government will make a request for RFP quote? Man, you came in here with all the right questions tonight, huh? Very, very good question. So that would be driven based on based on statutes and regulations for that particular governmental agencies, as well as what is on their purchasing manual. So let me, if you don't mind, I know I love procurement, I'll show you an example, but very good question. So I'll talk to you as I look for something that I could share with you, okay? So you could actually see what I'm referring to. So an RFI is a request for information. And with an RFI, they don't really know, if this products or services that they're looking for is even available in the market. And so they're really just doing this to get data. And so it's really good that you respond to an RFI, because if your company provided, there's a really good probability that they're going to issue an actual RFP for it. And then with that RFP, you get to respond to it. So keep that in mind. Good questions. So that's the whole RFI idea. If you have any other questions, drop it in. I'm just trying to get some information that could help you with how they determine, so you could see an example. Okay. But if you were to find, let's just go live. I'm trying to see, I thought I had any. There are thresholds that they use. So to determine, so it could be something like purchases that are $10,000 from 0 to 10,000 would be like a quote or not. So that's what I'm just looking for, that information, so I could really share it with you and you would see firsthand. But it falls under like the bid threshold. That's the easiest way to find out. Okay, here's one. Good questions. I think I found something else that they use. Sorry, can you repeat the RFI? Sure, no worries. So RFI is request for information. It's when the governmental agency they want something, they have an idea. So like, hey, we really want to know, are there phones that fly? Let's give you something crazy. So they don't know that if phones that fly or diminish or vanish even exist. So they're going to put a RFI for the industry. So when they create the actual packet, the RFI the packet, it would have to say a request for information, an RFI on there, right? They put that out for the public. And they also tend to sometimes send it to, if it's something like phone and whether phones fly, they may send it to all the technology vendors that they know of, or they have Google. And those technology vendors will look through the request for information to say, hey, they're looking for phones that fly. Oh my gosh, our company was developing that. Oh, look at that. So now they're responding to it and say, yes, our company has phones that fly. We do this with iPhone. We also do it with Android. Both Android and Apple fly. And, when somebody opens it up, it flies within 10 seconds, right? So the company's responding back to that RFI. And then the government agency is like, oh my God, y'all, there are phones that fly. This vendor right here is the one that responded. And sooner or later, maybe other vendors also responded. And so they're gathering data. Okay, well, this vendor said it flies after 5 seconds of opening the phone. This other vendor says it flies 2 days later. This one says it flies and then it comes back, right? So they're like, oh, we never thought about the phone coming back, right? So now they're going to put together like an RFP, and they may take a little bit from this one, from that one, from this one, from that one, and they put it together. Sometimes it may issue like an RFP, request for proposal, or they may issue what's called a request for qualification. And then they will send it out to selected companies, right? Definitely the companies that responded should receive a copy. Okay, so that's what the RFI is. It's really just for market research, getting data. it doesn't guarantee that there'll be an RFP issued based on that. Okay, good question. Okay, how do you go back in into P card? Y'all, look, they're like, listen, we want to get paid right away. So the question was, how do you go about getting a P card with accounts payable? I'm gonna come back. All right, let me just answer the question about the RFI, how do you make the distinction between RFP and so forth, right? So this, what I'm sharing with you, let me just go up, is the purchasing manual for Georgia. And if you, as you go through, we have 5 days together. So throughout the challenge, I'll be showing you how to get through and find some information. So I don't mind telling you now, since you're hungry for this information, no worries. So sometimes on the government agency's website, they have purchasing manuals. So the purchasing manuals is where it's going to tell you exactly the question that you asked, how the government decides whether to put out a request for quote, request for RFP, and so forth. So if you read your purchasing manual, you may see that in there. Sometimes it's on their website, sometimes it's not. And then you really won't know exactly what they use unless you're asking them directly or you like tracking what they put out and how much it is. But the purchasing manual gives you that information. So over here, for example, they're talking about the P card, right? So this they have the limit of $4,999. So if you know you're going to work with this university in Atlanta and the department has a P card and you know that their department has it, you don't want to say, oh yeah, my service is going to cost $5,500. Now they're going to be like, oh man, now you got to get a purchase order, right? But if you're offering them a service and it qualifies under their P card rules, then they're able to issue you that payment right away. Okay, so to answer a little bit of the other question about the P card, the government website will show that on there. It can, sometimes it'll have it on there, sometimes it won't. But those are questions, if you have a particular department you want to work with, you may just ask them, hi, do you guys have P cards? Because sometimes it's not always given out to everyone, right? So departments that tend to have P cards include a lot of facilities, departments may need, because they may have like an emergency and they may need something right away. So if not every department has a P card. I'm trying to see if I see anything else for another threshold for you. You guys asking good questions tonight. Let me see if I can get it. I was just searching for the language. I'm gonna have to go on Google and find you one live. Okay, just checking the question. So basically, it's research move, and whomever responds, they believe the company have the knowledge. Yes, you're absolutely right with that question. It's for resource. Let me just look. Let me just share. Go into Google. Who has? Oh, you know who has that threshold? Your question. Like Rutgers University Procurement has it. Just want to think of where I could find it really fast to ask you. So when you start doing this type of stuff with procurement, it takes time. Like there's a lot of navigation from one area to the next. Okay, so here it is. So you see where it says below $10,000? So this is Rutgers University right here in New Jersey. But you could apply what I'm telling you to any state that you're in. If you know this information is available and how to use it, which I'm going to show you I'm telling you how to use it, right? And if you have any questions, go ahead and type it in. So over here, it's for Rutgers University. They're like, okay, $10,000, with anything $10,000 or below, at least one quote attached to this requisition. Remember I tell you about that requisition? I told you I'm gonna give you some good information and you're gonna take this information, you're gonna share, right? The requisition defines that need, is the first step, all right? So that means for Rutgers University, they only need one quote for $10,000. So if your services you think you're gonna sell to Rutgers, whether you wanna come and do training or you have some goods you wanna provide to them, and you keep it like $5,000, they could just, if you give them a, your standard, your statement of work, and keep it under the $10,000, and they could issue you a purchase order. That's it, right? That's right. So like what I just said is, I mean, it's like, what? But you might have flown over. So in that sense, you're not going to see Rutgers do an RFP publicly for something below 10,000. It's just a waste of time, right? So, I mean, they can if they wanted to, but they only need one quote. So that one quote is your quote, okay? Let me just look at the chat. Yes, it does take time. It really does. So that's how you would use that information at any governmental agency, any website you see. That's how you use it. You look like, oh, 10,000. All right, so I got some work I'm gonna give them, and I'm gonna tell them my proposal is gonna be for $4,000, right? So that's how you use that in terms of strategy. Don't make it 99999, 9,999. You don't want to do that, right? So you're like, well, Denise, my products and services is way over $10,000. I am not gonna shortchange myself for no, 4,000, 5,000. Nope. So now you want to come down here where it says between 10,000 and 149,99999, right? They need at least one quote. And then they're requiring down here, one from the marketplace. So the marketplace, so vendors that are typically part of the marketplace have contracts already. So keep that in mind. So they're requiring to go to find out if any one of those vendors out there could do the goods or services that you're pitching to them, right? And then they want at least two quotes attached to the requisition. So that's why you create what is called a standard, a statement of work, and the statement of work document. When you give it to a governmental agency, that is what they're going to take, and they're going to attach it to the requisition itself in the system. And so if you join the Win the Contract Challenge, we go over statements of work. In the challenge, it starts May 1st. We do a lot more than that. We go through this level of analysis like I'm showing you now, but a lot more detail. And then a bunch of other things you're going to learn. And it starts May 1st, or there's a statement of work, one class, I believe, is a workshop coming up. I can't remember the date, but it's on the website, procurementqueen.com. But you will create your statement of work, and this is what Rutgers will take and attach it to the requisition, because the requisition, so the statement of work is like your support and documentation, okay? See over here, they have a copy. Shouldn't have done that. Let me just keep going. So over here where it says 150 and greater, then they have a different qualification of how they go up. Now it becomes a formal bid. So that's when it's like an RFP, they're gonna get competition and so forth. If you keep it under 10,000, no competition is needed. They just need your statement of work, and that eventually becomes the contract. Good questions. All right, let me just check. Any other questions? Going once, going twice. I think I got all your questions. So the P card is not a card that you, so everyone that's watching me right now, you're considered a vendor, right? The P card is not one, they're not going to issue your P card. The P card is a credit card that whoever works for these governmental agencies, they have that in their wallet. Just like you have your debit card and your credit card in your wallet, the governmental agencies have P cards in their wallets, okay? So if they have that and they need your services, they're able to just swipe and then you get paid with that swipe. Yeah, so the marketplace, good question. Man, you just came here with the questions. I guess your husband tell you what questions to ask, or he on here too? He's trying to save your hubby some time. Okay, so the marketplace is really, so in other, I mean, every agency have their own way of doing things, right? So for example, the marketplace vendors at one point or another, let's just say hypothetically, I don't know how Rutgers does it internally, right? So typically how it will work for the marketplace, rather than hypothetically, Rutgers said, hey, we're looking to buy, I don't know, computers. And so initially they'll put out an RFP for computers, and a whole bunch of different vendors would respond for computers. They get to be the only vendor that Rutgers is now going to use for computers, right? There will be no other vendor used but that vendor, and that vendor goes into what is called the marketplace. So the marketplace is kind of like, So most of the times they use what's called an ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning System. The marketplace includes that particular vendor that Rutgers has. So now when someone in the student services department at Rutgers University want to purchase laptop computers for their staff, they go to this marketplace, which is an internal system that Rutgers University has and pays for. And they're able to make that purchase to get that computer, the only computer that's at Rutgers University, because that vendor has that contract. So that's pretty much what it is. The marketplace is more internal. It's not something for you as a vendor to be like, oh, I want to be a marketplace vendor. The way you become, they decide which vendors go on the marketplace or not, but it tends to be for things like that, maybe like office supplies, things that they use a lot, right? And they don't want to be like, okay, well, this department likes to go to Staples, this other one goes to Home Depot for the supply, this other place go to Office Max, because they're spending too much money buying the same type of thing all over. So they're like, listen, all these vendors are going to give us a discount rate, and we're going to go with the one that gives us the best rate. And this is where we're going to get all our office supplies from, that one particular company. So it saves them a lot of money in order to do so. And so those vendors tend to go in the marketplace, and it makes the requisition process a lot easy for people that's within the company itself. Okay, good question. Okay, well, you asked some great questions, really good questions. Thanks for asking them. Okay. So no, the marketplace, oftentimes for a vendor gets on the marketplace, typically they would have had some type of competitive process, like an RFP or a bid. They respond to it. The marketplace really is just like think of it like an app that you may have on your phone that says marketplace. That's pretty much what it is internally. For you as a vendor, you know, you want to see what bids and opportunities are available at Rutgers University that you want to respond to. And then they'll put you on there, you know, via the marketplace. But it's a streamlined process. Good questions. Let me just check. I got all your questions. Any other questions? Going once, going twice. Okay, you're gonna gather some documents for tonight. Your tax ID, your company name, when you started your company, your statement, company formation. So, you know, whether you have a nonprofit organization, nonprofit also compete and win government contracts too. So I wouldn't worry about that, you know. And then you're also listing 15 goods and services that you want to sell to the government, or even people that you know that provides particular goods and services. Just list them, right? I just want you to just dump it all because I don't care how silly you think it sounds, like, oh, there's no way there's a government contract for that. I just showed you one for Tai Chi. Okay, who would have thought? There's government contract for crochet, the government contracts for yoga. I mean, you name it. If it's legal, some governmental agency is willing to buy it. Okay. All right, so no more questions. All right, last call. If you found this information helpful, drop a 2 in the chat. 2 if you found it helpful. If you're excited about this, like, what? Denise, I got more than 15. I know so many different people do so many different things. You know, I'm being the one responding to these RFPs, and I'm gonna get them a little something, and I'm gonna take a pot. And you can do that. There are companies out there where you just sit there and you just respond to RFPs and bids, and then they may find other people to do the work, right? You just subcontract that work out. So you could definitely do that. Okay, let's see. Okay, I got it too. Awesome, awesome. Thank you. Awesome. But it's true. Companies do that. I mean, you know, you're like, this is the same vendor winning the contract again? Yeah. Okay. All right. No more questions. I'm going to see you guys tonight. I mean, not tonight. tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we are going to do day 2. So day 2, you're going to actually use the information that you gathered for today. and do that on day 2. Let me just check. This is looking through the chat. It is recorded, and I was trying to stream it live. What I'll do is I'll include it. I'll add it to the free Facebook because I have a class. It's a free class, so I'll add that recording to there because it's a little different. And you guys asked so many great questions. I'm quite sure a lot of other companies would benefit from this information too. So what I will do is I'll add it to the free class that I give. And it's in a course, so it's self-paced, so you could rewatch it as many times as you want. Okay, good question. But when I'm done with that, I'll drop the link. I'll put that announcement in the Facebook group. So you want to make sure you join the free Facebook group. Okay, the Facebook group is Procurement Awareness Movement, PAM. I don't even have any wine yet. Look at that. Lord. All right. Thank you so much. Good question. Good question. I'll see you guys tomorrow. I could talk this stuff all night. So awesome. She's like, see you tomorrow night. I was waiting for you. I was like, she probably got one more. Watch. Thank you for asking those great questions. I appreciate it. I love 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 it. See you tomorrow night. Take care and make sure you get in the free Facebook group. There's a lot of information in there that you could definitely benefit from. All right. Take care. Bye.